House Speaker Kevin McCarthy now says we're on the verge of impeachment. Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends. A lot to talk about today. The walls now are closing in. There is no getting around that fact. The walls on Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the entire Biden crime family are now starting to close in. The evidence now that continues to come out is now irrepressible. It is an avalanche. The media now don't know what to do. They are desperate. They know that as more comes out, the case to prop up Joe Biden is now withering away in front of our eyes. Donald Trump now is predicting Biden probably will not make it to 2024. There are many others now who are saying either Biden will be impeached, and once he's impeached and the full scale of his crimes are exposed, he will not be the nominee, or he's going to have to step down for quote-unquote medical emergency reasons to spare him the humiliation of a devastating impeachment. Either way now, you can feel it. The Biden presidency is on the verge of complete collapse. So here is now the absolute latest. If you remember, when the Republicans won the midterms in November 2022, I did a big event at Kelly Financial, and I talked about the upcoming new congressional session, the new Congress, and I said the man to watch is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. There's nothing flashy about him. He's not, extremely articulate. He's not loud. He's not very telegenic, but he comes from the banking sector. He's very meticulous, very thorough. He's a bulldog. When he sinks his teeth into something, he doesn't let go. Comer now is eviscerating Biden. And it's been through whistleblower after whistleblower, bank record after bank record, text message after text message, witness after witness. It has now gotten to the point he has built an irrefutable case that there was a massive multi-million-dollar pay-to-play scheme in which, as Comer put it, Joe Biden has been the chairman of the board. And so here is now the absolute latest. We now have multiple IRS whistleblowers, multiple FBI whistleblowers who have now admitted under oath that Hunter Biden was the bagman for the Biden crime family, in which, in exchange for millions and millions of dollars from China, Ukraine, and Romania, all three of those countries, Joe Biden was the point person for while he was vice president. That they gave Hunter Biden, who funneled the money to Joe Biden, millions of dollars in exchange for policy favors to change the policy of the United States in order to benefit those countries, for them to line their pockets. Straight out bribery, pay to play, and corruption and treason. Now, the final witness is about to emerge. You've heard of Tony Bobulinski. He testified under oath to Comer that he met with Joe Biden, that he met with him at a restaurant, a swanky restaurant in Los Angeles, in which they talked about the upcoming deal with a powerful Chinese energy firm, CEFC, which is directly tied to the Communist Party, and that Hunter Biden introduced Joe Biden to Bobulinski, and that Joe Biden was, quote unquote, the big guy. Well, now Devin Archer is about to testify. Who is Devin Archer? Devin Archer was Hunter Biden's closest family business associate. In fact, he sat on the board of Burisma with Hunter Biden. He was the bag man for Hunter, who was the bag man for Joe. So we're now getting to the top of the crime family. And Devin Archer now is prepared to testify, listen to this, that he was in on at least 24 phone calls with Hunter Biden. And there are 2 calls in particular in which at the table was the owner of Burisma, their CEO, founder, and owner. He goes by Mykola Zlochevsky. He really goes, Mykola, you can turn that into Nikola. So in Ukrainian, he goes by Mykola Zlochevsky. He is the owner of Burisma, and essentially his right-hand man, Vadim Pojarsky. These 2 men together met with Hunter Biden and Devin Archer. They had gone back and forth in emails, in which we now have the emails that Hunter Biden was told the ultimate purpose of me giving you $5 million and your father, Joe Biden, who was then vice president, $5 million, $10 million right off the top. The quote unquote ultimate purpose was to get the Inspector General Victor Shokin fired and to get him off the back because he was investigating Zlochevsky and his energy company, Burisma. And of course, Hunter said, no one does these things better than the Bidens. We guarantee delivery. Well, several months later, Joe Biden delivered. And we have him on tape bragging how he got the prosecutor general Victor Shokin fired. So, $10 million, 5 to Joe, 5 to Hunter, $83,000 a month to sit on the board of Burisma. A lot of that going to Joe Biden. And it was pay to play. Quid pro quo, straight bribery. We pay you. You eliminate our opposition. You get people fired to cover up our corruption. Devin Archer, on that call, will testify that Hunter Biden called his father. His father was vice president. Put the phone on the table, hit the speaker dial, hit the speaker button, and with Zlochevsky and his right-hand man, Posharsky, right beside him, the 4 men speaking to Joe Biden talked business. Family business. Influence peddling, bribery, and exactly how they were going to get Shokin fired, what Zlochevsky and Burisma expected from Joe Biden and what they expected from Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden now is going to be completely caught up in a web that leads directly to his father. And his top former business associate is now going to blow the ultimate whistle. Joe Biden said he never spoke about family business to his son. He has said that hundreds of times. He's a liar. He's a liar. Joe Biden said he never participated in Hunter Biden's business. He's a liar. Joe Biden said he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business. He's a liar. He was at the very center of it. He directed it. He managed it. He controlled it. He was the one who sold the influence. And now the Republicans, they got him. Comer in particular got him. And now Devin Archer is scheduled to testify either at the end of this week or at the beginning of next week. They already know what he's going to say. If I were him, I would be very careful. Let someone else taste your food. Keep the curtains on your windows. Don't talk to any strangers. Don't walk on the street, because Devon Archer now is going to be the man that puts the Republicans and this investigation over the top and will inevitably now trigger the impeachment of Joe Biden. Listen, how much time left, Mike? Okay. Listen now to Kevin McCarthy. Roll cut to Mike.
We now have some of the most credible whistleblowers. These 10-year IRS agents who have come forward said that the Biden family has been treated differently, that what Weiss has told us is different than what Garland and Weiss has told the public. And you're sitting here today where now you have found millions of foreign money, just what the 1023 alleges they did to Biden's family. Now we found that it has funneled through shell companies. If you're sitting in our position today, we would know none of this if Republicans had not taken the majority. We've only followed where the information has taken us.
Now, I'm going to play the next cut. This is where McCarthy says the evidence has now taken us this far. And where? Impeach. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Devon Archer now, the former business associate, in fact, the closest person to Hunter Biden during the Biden crime family spree over many, many years. Devon Archer has now been sentenced to 1 year in prison. He defrauded a Native American Indian tribe. I've gotten two figures. Some say $43 million. Others say $60 million. Whatever it is, over $40 million. And this was something Hunter had nothing to do with. The Bidens had nothing to do with this particular defrauding. But apparently Devon Archer feels burned. He feels that Hunter and his family threw him under the bus and didn't help him when he spent all many years helping them. So apparently now he wants to talk. He has agreed now to testify under oath. He's already given them a private testimony. He will now give them public testimony. It will either be at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. By the way, that's when they're going to indict Trump, on January 6th. Whatever day Devon Archer picks, that's when Jack Smith will drop the indictment in order to try to blow this story off the radar. It's obvious now how the Democrats play, but it's not going to stop anything. The impeachment train has now begun. Devon Archer has already told House Republican investigators that he was involved in at least 24 phone calls, in particular with Hunter Biden, as well as the owner and founder of Burisma, Nikolai Zlochevsky, and his right-hand man, Vadim Poshasky, that all four of them were in conversations, and that they would call Vice President Joe Biden and put him on the phone, on speaker. And that's when they discussed business. And it wasn't just Ukraine. This was regarding China. It was regarding Romania. So Devon Archer will fully corroborate what Tony Bobulinski, under oath, also testified. He was also a former business partner of Hunter Biden. This will be on top of the IRS whistleblowers, the FBI whistleblowers, and mountains of bank records, text messages, emails, and wire transfers. In other words, now they are building an incontrovertible, irrefutable, comprehensive case against Joe Biden, Hunter, and the entire Biden crime family. Listen now to Kevin McCarthy saying, now that we have Devon Archer, who is as close to Hunter Biden as you can possibly get, and he is telling us Joe Biden is a liar, Joe Biden has lied, Hunter Biden has lied, Joe was directly involved in global influence peddling, bribery, corruption, and pay to play. Quid pro Joe. Listen now to Kevin McCarthy. It's time to impeach. Roll cut 3, Mike.
Rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information needed. Because this president has also used something we have not seen since Richard Nixon, used the weaponization of government to benefit his family and deny Congress the ability to have the oversight.
So he then elaborated. This made big news, obviously. Like, whoa. You're saying now impeachment is clearly on the table and it's coming. Now, it was inevitable. It's too many people on the House Oversight Committee, too many Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee, too many Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Lauren Boeberts, and just too many of them began to bang the table. Too many of you were flooding McCarthy's phone lines, frankly. The pressure just built and built and built. What are you waiting for? How many crimes do they have to commit? How many more do you have to catch? How many more do you have to expose? Until you finally do the right thing and impeach these gangsters and criminals. And the dam now is breaking. Listen now to Kevin McCarthy. Again, saying we're going to have no choice. We're going to first put Devin Archer under oath. Once we have him officially under oath, we will launch impeachment proceedings. Roll cut 4, Mike.
Well, it's interesting that the Biden family runs, if they say, a company but never had an office and shell companies to be able to pay through. But if they really ran it for foreign countries, why didn't you get money from France, from Germany, from UK? Why does it have to be from China, Romania, in these countries that have real challenges and had problems going through? I believe we will follow this all the way to the end, and this is going to rise to an impeachment inquiry the way the Constitution tells us to do this, and we have to get the answers to these questions.
Let me ask you. Will the Republicans finally impeach? And I think now the bigger question is, because I think McCarthy's now locked himself in. The question now is, what happens when the Republicans do impeach? Are the Democrats stupid enough to defend Joe Biden? Are they willing to allow him and Hunter to drag them and their entire party down? Or will they use impeachment as the excuse to finally throw this demented, senile buffoon under the bus and his entire crime family? Are they going to use impeachment as the excuse to dump Joe and replace him with Kamala? Or to tell him, step down for a medical emergency, for medical reasons? What will happen to Joe? Will the Democrats fight to the end and defend him and protect him and circle the wagons? Or is Joe Biden now about to fall and fall hard? 6:32 on the great WRKO. The walls are now closing in on Joe Biden and the entire Biden crime family. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has now said, we are now seeing this rise to the level of an impeachment inquiry after Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's best business friend, that's how he's known, his closest business associate, is now flipped on the Bidens. He now will testify and he will expose it all. And according to the New York Post, among other media outlets, Devin Archer has already in private told Republicans in 2015 he and Hunter were in Dubai at a very ritzy resort with Nikolai Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, and his right-hand man, Vadim Pozharsky. And as the four of them sat, Nikolai Zlochevsky, the big shot, the oligarch, told Hunter, I need to speak to your father urgently. We have to get Shokin off my back. That is the Inspector General who was investigating him and Burisma for corruption. Hunter Biden then, with the four men sitting at the table, according to Devin Archer, dialed his father. It was Friday morning then in Washington, D.C. His father, Vice President, point man for Ukraine, picked up the phone, and Hunter simply said, Nikolai and Vadim are here. Didn't even say their last names. That's how familiar he was with them. Now, that conversation, among many other conversations, among many emails, will show, and they have an FBI whistleblower now. According to Senator Chuck Grassley, they have found an FBI whistleblower who has given them written testimony under oath that both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden explicitly told Zlochevsky, the Burisma oligarch, the owner, we want $10 million. 5 for Joe, 5 for Hunter. We want it now. That's our starting fee for us to get anything done for you. And Zlochevsky then wrote an email, or through his associate Vadim Pozharsky, through his right-hand man, and in that email, it explicitly says, the ultimate purpose of having Hunter Biden on the board, the ultimate purpose of me giving you $5 million to Joe Biden and $5 million to Hunter Biden is so that you will get Shokin fired. And Hunter says the Bidens deliver. So they have FBI whistleblowers, they have smoking gun bank records, they have the wire transfer, the money exchanged, they have the smoking gun emails, and now they're going to have full corroboration from Hunter Biden's own partner. Listen now to Congressman James Comer. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. If they do impeach Biden, and now it's all but inevitable, I think, he is the man who did it. He just dug up and dug up and dug up, wouldn't let go, information after information after information. Look at him saying, all roads now lead to Joe Biden. After Devin Archer, we know everything. Roll cut 5, Mike.
We're at the point now, we're in the deposition phase. We need people like Devin Archer to come forward and tell us what they know. We already have bank records. We have emails. We have text messages. We have phone records. We have testimony from other people. So we know a lot about what Joe Biden's involvement was. We're at the point to where we need people to come in under oath and go into more detail, because I think all roads point to Joe Biden. I think any reasonable American would see that.
I mean, it's going to be more than any reasonable American. Look, the Dems now have a massive problem on their hand. Either they're going to circle the wagons, and they have the votes in the Senate to acquit. They don't have the votes to block impeachment in the House, but they have the votes to acquit. So, do they want to defend and protect this scumbag and criminal? Because once you go down the road of impeachment, many more Americans are finally going to wake up. And they're going to say, who do we have? What political gangsters do we have in the White House? Who do we have in the White House? So if they're willing to tether themselves and yoke themselves to the Biden crime family, good luck. Be my guest. Or are they going to use this as the excuse to throw him overboard? Or, as many are now saying in Washington, to basically walk up to him and say, Joe, just come out and say for medical reasons you can't continue. You have a medical emergency and you're innocent, blah, 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 but just step down. Step aside and step down. So my question to you, what do you think the Democrats should do? What will the Democrats do? And is it high time that Biden and his crime family were impeached? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are on fire. Eddie in Maine. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Eddie from Sebago Lake, Maine. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing very good today, Eddie. I'm very happy today, Eddie.
Yeah, I woke up with a smile myself, to tell you the truth. My big question is anybody going to be put in an orange jumpsuit? Anybody? What about all that money they stole from our country? That going to be somehow turned back to us? And why don't they put Hunter's thing on hold? Because that's part of this deal too, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing now. If they go down the road of impeachment, it's going to blow everything up. And you got Trump looming in the shadows. And Trump has now said, I come back to power, they're going to jail. So what you're seeing, this is going to be the case against the Bidens. And once the American look, there was a con job. The media lied to us. The media lied to the American people, and they portrayed them as something that they're not. He's not bipartisan. He's not moderate. He's not Scranton Joe. He's not working class Joe. He's a complete and utter crook. And the media knew that. And I also believe the media is going to go down. The media is completely implicated in this. They were the ones who lied for him every step of the way. And now when the American people realize what kind of a gangster and traitor, how corrupt he and his family are, and what they installed in the White House, I think there's going to be a massive reckoning. And with Trump looming, Trump is going to say, I told you. I told you every step of the way. I told you what you're getting with Joe Biden. So that's why now the Democrats don't know what to do. As I speak to you now, they are in full panic mode. Because you, me, this audience, and millions of other MAGA supporters have put so much pressure on the Republican Party to do the right thing. And I got to say, again, hat tip to Kuhner. He's the guy that orchestrated and masterminded this entire investigation. He's dotted every I. He's crossed every T. He's not giving them any breathing room. So once this becomes impeachment, once this goes down the road of impeachment, the damning evidence will be there for the whole country and the whole world to see. And if the Democrats were smart, if Biden was smart, he would leave now. If they were smart, they would cut him loose and just say, resign, whatever, family reasons, health reasons, have Kamala pardon him, and he and his family can maybe escape. But if he continues to dig in his heels and says, we're going to fight this thing to the end, the House of Biden is going to fall.
She pardoned him. Did they take his picture off the wall of presidents?
No, I mean, he's like Nixon. Nixon got pardoned. But, I mean, the point is, he will go down in history as the most corrupt president in the history of the United States. Because what he did is he sold our country out for money. He took bribes through his son in exchange for policy favors that favored foreign countries against his own. He will go down in history as vile, corrupt, and a Benedict Arnold. The Biden name and the Biden presidency will be mud. And by the way, everybody who voted for him should be ashamed of themselves. Your calls next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Biden now on the cusp of impeachment. Now Kevin McCarthy says, with all of the evidence piling up, in fact, now it's an avalanche, it will now rise to an impeachment inquiry, and soon after Devin Archer testifies formally, it will now lead to an impeachment on the House floor. Good idea, bad idea, and will the Democrats stick with Joe Biden, or will they use this as an excuse to get rid of him, throw him overboard, and install Kamala Harris? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. George in Drake. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call again. Well, I told my wife since the beginning that Joe Biden ultimately is going to be the fall guy. And I did. I called this right from the beginning. They put Joe in charge. They really wanted to slap us in the face, so they threw Kamala Harris in there, because she's worthless but nothing. And they're doing exactly what they wanted to do. They broke our country. But, like the earlier caller said, once he gets impeached, I know they can pardon this guy, but to go after the rest of the family for all the treason, the money, all of it? Really, Jeff?
In other words, what, you don't think it's going to happen, George?
Nobody's ever held accountable. That's all I can. Believe me, I pray for this country more than you can ever imagine. I wear my flag hat every day. I go to your rallies. It's sad. But I hope he goes to jail.
George, let's just say, for the sake of argument, Trump comes back to power in 2024. And all of this will be laid out very powerfully, very conclusively, irrefutably in an impeachment process in the House. And Trump is now back in the White House. He has his attorney general. He's cleaning out the DOJ. Do you think Trump would go after the Biden crime family and send them to jail? In other words, the swamp will protect them, of course. But with the new sheriff, maybe Trump will say, you know what? I'm rounding all of you up.
And hopefully, he was fooled by some of the people he appointed the first time around because he thought they were good people. And you learn by your mistakes, and nobody's smarter than Donald Trump. And I do believe that the good Lord sent him to us. So great scenario, and I'm with you all the way.
George, let's keep our fingers crossed. George, thank you very, very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tony in Randolph. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Jeff, come on. This whole thing is a setup. They know Trump can beat Biden, so they're taking Biden out of the race. They're cutting his legs right off the knees, and then they're going to get rid of Trump.
Okay, now, Tony, this is interesting, but I'm not sure they're going to dump Joe, because I'm thinking they dump Joe, they get Kamala. And frankly, I think Trump does even better against Kamala than he does against Joe.
I don't know. I think they know that Trump can beat Biden. They're taking them both out. Kamala, all she got to do is wait 8 months, and then they can put another puppet in for another 4. They're always one step ahead of us. We're one step behind. We got to go get them.
Tony, do you think he's going down? You think the Republicans are going to pull the proverbial trigger and begin impeaching him? And then eventually the Dems will just say, Joe, you got to go?
Of course. Then they'll take him out because they know, look at the polls. Trump is killing everybody in the polls. Biden's down in the cellar. They want to take him out, then they're going to take Trump out and put their own puppets in.
Interesting. It would clear the decks for them. Tony, that's a really interesting point. Thank you very much, Tony. I mean, think about it. You impeach Biden and, like Nixon, right? Well, they didn't impeach him, but they were, drawing up articles of impeachment. And that's when Republican senators said, look, Mr. President, you don't have the votes. You're going to lose. You're going to lose in the House, and then you're going to be convicted in the Senate. So if I were you, I'd resign now. So basically, are they going to do the same to him and say, you know what, Joe, you got to go? I'm sorry, we're not going to back you on this. You got to go, resign the way Nixon resigned, and then go after Trump and put him in jail. And basically, it's a clean sweep. I'm just throwing that out there. 617-266-6868 is the number. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning.
Hi,
the
Russ.
real question is, once Kamala Harris becomes the president, will China attack Taiwan? Now, Joe is a liability to the Democratic Party. He will be forced to resign. It's time for damage control for the party. He and his family will be pardoned. It's time for the deep state to be put on the chopping block. President Trump is the only one that can accomplish that mission, and I think this will definitely open up the door for Trump to get back in the White House. My biggest fear, though, will we have World War III under the leadership of Kamala Harris?
Well, Russ, I want to ask you really two questions, and let me read this tweet, all right, and it's going to set up a question. Look, the base is now going nuts. The Democratic base, hearing now that McCarthy is committing himself to impeachment, the Democratic base is now, they're backing Biden all the way. So Rob Reiner, you know him, meathead from All in the Family, Hollywood actor, Hollywood director, Moonbat, but he speaks for many liberals. I'm sure he speaks for Ben in North Andover, Bill in Sudbury, Chris in Gloucester. They're like meathead themselves. And here's what he wrote on Twitter. Quote, "Time to stop all the hand-wringing. Joe Biden is having the most successful and accomplished presidency in the last 60 years. And the choice could not be more clear. Do you want democracy or fascism? Question mark." So, first of all, they're claiming, I swear to you, he's even better than Obama. He's better than Clinton. He's better than LBJ. That Joe Biden is the second coming of FDR and John F. Kennedy. So they're saying, we love this guy. We're not going to let him get thrown overboard. Number one. And number two, that paves the way for Trump, which they say paves the way for fascism. In other words, Russ, the base is saying you better defend him with everything you've got. No Kamala, we want Joe.
Jeff, you've just asked me the easiest question to answer. Liberalism is a mental disorder.
So you're saying no matter what, no matter how many, liberals want Joe Biden to stay on, the evidence is so overwhelming and his poll numbers are so bad that the power brokers in the Democratic Party are going to say, Joe, I'm sorry. It's time to go to Rehoboth. It's time you got to go to a nursing home, Joe. It's, sorry, but enjoy your money at Rehoboth Beach.
The most important thing to Joe Biden at this point will be he and his family need to be pardoned. And that's the deal that's going to be made.
I think you may be right. Well, he needs it. His son needs it. His family. He implicated his whole family in his influence peddling scheme. All of them. His brother, his sister-in-law, one of his granddaughters. Talk about all in the family. Russ, this was all in the family. Thank you for that call, Russ. 617-266-6868 is the number. I just want to throw this out there. I know what we think, and we're right, obviously, how destructive Biden has been to the border, to our economy, to our national security, to crime, to our standard of living, to our very democratic republic. What happened in Afghanistan was a disaster of epic proportions. We're on the verge of World War III in Ukraine. I could go on. But to the radical left, to the hardcore moonbats out there, they love the guy. The AOCs, the Elizabeth Warrens, the Ayanna Presleys, they love this guy. They can't, he's delivered everything. To the Bernie Sanders folks, he's delivered everything to them. So they're like, we're not going to cut him loose. We're crazy? We don't care if the guy's a walking corpse. Just keep signing those bills and keep pushing climate change and keep pushing the war against Russia and keep that border open and keep pushing for the Great Reset. So what I'm just saying is, I don't know if the Democrats are willing to cut Joe Biden loose. They may be crazy enough to actually take their stand and try to defend him. Now, to me, if they do that, then they're really crazy. Then they're really stupid. But I think the Democrats, they may be gearing up for a fight. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and God bless you as always for everything that you do, and Andy and the rest of the crew. Listen, all I wanted to say this morning is I do not want to see the Bidens be pardoned in any way whatsoever. These people have got to go to jail for what they've done to our country. They have committed treason after treason over and over again. These liberals are so stupid. Anybody that would write that he's the best president in 60 years, I guess as we know, you can't fix stupid, because anybody that would even say that has to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not see what's happening in this country. I mean, I know liberals that are now saying to themselves, oh my God, what's happening here? I mean, they're actually starting to wake up and open their eyes. So not every liberal is stupid, but something has got to change here with these people, because obviously this man has done critical damage to our country by these borders alone, not mentioning all the other things that you just brought up. I think that military tribunals is what should happen, and that there should be no pardoning allowed at all for these people. They need to suffer the way that they have tried to make our country suffer.
Mags,
what do you think, Jeff?
Oh, please, I'm with you all the way. I mean, Mags, look, all I'm just saying is Kamala will, if he is to step down, there's no question Kamala is going to pardon. I'm not saying she should. To me, the last thing this guy ever deserves is a pardon. I think they all should go to the dock, and they all should go to jail for the rest of their lives. I think there's no question. I mean, we're talking now about naked bribery. We're talking about the selling of our country down the river. We're talking about treason. No, and the big story, I'm going to get to this a little bit later, Max, is it's coming out now how complicit and compromised they are with Ukraine. And this guy Zlochevsky, I know like these Eastern European names are hard to follow. Zlochevsky is the oligarch behind Zelensky. He bankrolls Zelensky. He supports Zelensky. He's the power behind the throne. So the Zelensky associate, the Zelensky government, has our president over a barrel. This to me is the most frightening thing of all. Our president now is being blackmailed and extorted. And what the Republicans now are going to expose, and they've got the FBI informants and whistleblowers, is that Zlochevsky has 17 audio recordings of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. He's also got apparently several recordings, just him alone with Joe Biden. Never mind financial statements and documents that irrefutably prove that Biden was on the take from Burisma and from Zlochevsky. So we have a president of the United States who is so compromised he is owned by a foreign power who we're sending billions and billions of dollars of weapons to in a war against the world's greatest nuclear power? Is our president being blackmailed into potential World War III? This has the national security implications for this are honestly too horrifying to even contemplate. So the question the Democrats also want to ask themselves is, do you want all of this to come out? So I think there's going to be a certain point where they're going to step in and say, listen, look, we got to cut this off now. Because if they find out about Joe and his involvement with Ukraine, they're going to find out about Nancy Pelosi. They'll find out about Mitt Romney. They'll find out about Schumer. They'll find out about Lindsey Graham. In other words, they'll start finding out there are many politicians in Washington who do the exact same grift as the Bidens. And they don't want all this to become known in public. So I think the deal is going to be, you step down, Kamala will pardon you. He's got to be worried that he's going to go to jail or his son is going to go to jail. Once you go down the road of impeachment, you can't control it. So Mags, to me, we got to keep our fingers crossed. But there's no question in my mind, Joe Biden is guilty as sin. He is the modern day Benedict Arnold. In fact, what I'd love to do is change Benedict Arnold to Joe Biden. His name should be synonymous with treason. You're a Joe Biden. I hope that phrase catches off. Instead of you're a traitor, you're a Joe Biden. So do I think he deserves a pardon, Mags? Absolutely not. I want him in the dock.
Jeff, for what he's done to everybody in this country over and over again. And I'm sure we can find stuff on Camilla so she can't stay in either, so she can't pardon them. To be straight with you, you know that I have a friend going to jail for doing nothing on January 6th. Okay? You know about her, and you know what they've done to all of these January 6ers. All of the things that they have done against us, our country, and other people in our country, they need to go to jail. They need to go to military tribunals, and everybody needs to get behind that because they need to be punished for what they have done to us and the plans that they have to ruin our country. God bless you, Jeff, and God bless America. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, Mags. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quick reset. I want to go right back to the blazing phone lines. Kevin McCarthy now says Devin Archer is about to testify privately. He's already testified. He's been deposed, but he will testify under oath publicly, either end of this week or early next week. And he is now going to testify under oath. Remember, this is Hunter Biden's former closest business associate, that Joe Biden was involved in over 24 phone calls. He was there. He witnessed it with Burisma executives, with Chinese and Romanian oligarchs, and that he was the chairman of the entire global influence peddling scheme laid out by the Bidens when he was vice president. He not only knew about Hunter Biden's business dealings, he was central to Hunter Biden's business dealings. Now, once that happens, as Kevin McCarthy said, we will then have no choice but to launch impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden. Joe Biden will be impeached. His days are numbered. 617-266-6868. Should Biden be impeached? And the Democrats, will they go down with the ship and defend him and his indefensible, inexcusable crimes? Or are they going to walk up to him and say, it's time for you to go, Joe? Are they going to throw him under the bus? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. Of course, we've been talking about Devin Archer. This is the fourth time that his appearance before a Comer's committee has been rescheduled. Well, tomorrow just happens to be the day that the judge in the Hunter Biden case rubber stamps the plea. Is there any connection there? Obviously, I think so. The other thing is, why is he still walking the streets? His appeal was overturned about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. He's supposed to be in prison. What I don't understand is who makes that decision to take him off the streets and throw him in prison. He got originally the mighty Ronnie Abrams, appointed by Obama, threw out his conviction by the jury. The other 4 or 5 people went to prison. 2 judges above her, appointed by Trump, said, you cannot do that. She restored the conviction and gave him a year and a day. Right? This is all several years ago. He's never gone to jail. He's been able to appeal while he's awaiting his answer. And he got his answer. No, you're going to jail. So who's protecting him here? The Republicans? Is Obama behind the scenes protecting him here? Are the Bidens actually protecting him? I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Well, Nick, look, that's fascinating. I mean, you're right. Devin Archer should have been in jail by now already. He's about to serve his sentence finally because of a Trump-appointed judge. To me, what's more interesting is he's about to roll. You know, he's going to, in fact, he's practically already rolled. He's already told them all this stuff in private. He's been deposed in private. And now he says, no, I want to go public and I want to go under oath. So now they just want to schedule a date, a hearing. They want to make it as high profile, high visibility as possible. So the question is, what did Hunter Biden and Joe Biden do to him that so teed him off? Now, all I know is this. According to media reports, they're saying Devin Archer feels, quote unquote, betrayed and burned by Hunter. So I don't know if he thought they were going to go to bat for him and have this year in jail prison sentence rescinded. He's angry he didn't get the sweetheart deal that Hunter Biden did. I mean, maybe he's looking at this and saying, let me get this straight. That SOB will never spend a second in prison, but I'm going to go to jail for a year and a day? I don't think so. So I don't know what happened behind the scenes, Nick, but something has now happened, and now they've got the key witness. And he's talking. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us 70470-70470. Okay, it is the Kuhner Country Poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Will the Senate Democrats use the impeachment of Joe Biden as an excuse to get him off the 2024 presidential ticket? In other words, when House Republicans impeach Joe Biden, which now looks all but inevitable in the wake of Kevin McCarthy's comments over the last couple of days, and Devin Archer about to testify, Hunter Biden's closest associate, and he's going to blow the mother of all whistles. Will the Senate Democrats, will they throw Joe under the bus in order to get him off the ticket for 2024 and put up somebody they think can actually beat Trump? I'm just curious. Or will they stick with him to the bitter end? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in Nancy ER. And as always, you can vote via Twitter. Our handle there at the Kuhner Report, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Yes or no? 617-266-6868. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Very good, Mark. When I heard that news last night, I'm like, hallelujah, what took them so long?
It was too, Jeff, to a certain extent, though, and I'll tell you why in a second. But to answer your poll question, I think the Democrats have no choice but to stick with Joe Biden, because if they go against him now, they're just going to look like lying, deceitful a-holes, which they knew all along, Jeff, what Joe Biden was all about. And they knew if they installed him as president, they can get whatever they want, and he'll sign it because they know what he's done. They know what he's all about. And they also have him over a barrel along with Zelensky. So let's call a spade here. And if it goes to impeachment, Jeff, yep, the Congress, that'll pass. But once it gets to the Senate, Jeff, our Democrats and our Republicans will cut it off at the knees. And what does that say about them as well, even though they know he's as guilty as sin? So I'm going to tell you, I'm on the same boat as Mags, your previous couple of callers ago, where I don't want to hear any effing bullcrap about, well, Joe Biden is going to step down as president because of health issues. No, I want to hear Joe Biden has stepped down as president of the United States because he is guilty of treason, bribery and selling this country down the effing river. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear no bullcrap about failing health.
I want to play a cut, Mark, and I want to get your reaction. This is Trump on Newsmax saying, now whether it's for legitimate health reasons or as the pretext, the excuse, Trump is saying, look, I don't know if it's genuinely, he can't make it anymore, or the corruption is just, the evidence is piling up, and it's just too big now to ignore. It's just too big. And he's going down. But listen now to Trump. This is a very interesting prediction that he makes, and I want to get your reaction, Mark. Roll cut 20, Mike.
So I don't know. Is he going to make it? I don't know. I can tell you that it looks to me, I would think he would probably make it, but it would be a 50-50 deal.
I don't think he wants to give it up, but I think it's fascinating to watch how you have the entirety, I think, of the establishment press trying to convince you that this man is fine. And you'd have to be insane to think that this man is fine.
Well, even doing an interview like you and I are doing right now, where you're asking various questions, and I'm saying, I didn't get on and say, you cannot talk about this, you cannot talk about that. You can ask me whatever you want. But even doing an interview like this, he couldn't do it. He couldn't answer the first question.
No.
So I don't know. It's like, is he going to run? Physically, he's not exactly looking strong, and I wouldn't say he looks like a picture of health. And from the mental standpoint, I don't think he's looking too strong. So
Trump is now saying he thinks it's 50-50 that Biden will be the nominee. Whether it's because, he's mentally failing, cognitively he's failing, he's declining physically. I mean, now he can barely walk without tripping. Secret Service now is almost holding him as he walks. The corruption now that is really, it's mounting and mounting and mounting, all that evidence. So I got to ask you, Mark, do you think Biden will be Trump's opponent in 2024?
I don't think he will be. I don't think he will be, because I think, like you said, the walls are closing in on him. He is, like I said, he's probably going to step down, but he's not going to step down for the reasons. Let's face it. Did to Donald Trump before he became president, while he was president, and now after he's president, between Russia, impeachment 1, impeachment 2, documents, Stormy Daniels, and now the January 6th indictment that's going to come down. You know what? Joe Biden deserves to rot in prison until the day he croaks.
Mark, drop the mic. Completely agree with you. Mark's point is he's going to step down. Mark doesn't think he'll make it, but he'll step down for whatever, health reasons or medical reasons or whatever, not for the reasons that we want him to admit, which is he is the most corrupt president by far in the history of the United States. Joe Biden now should be synonymous with Benedict Arnold. 617-266-6868. Thank you very much for that call, Mark. Mike, 10 seconds left. Hey, what happened to the music, Mike? It wasn't playing. Okay, your calls more next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very quickly, I want to go right back to the phone lines. There is so much now coming out. So we have FBI whistleblowers, IRS whistleblowers, a new FBI informant or a new FBI whistleblower. And now, of course, you've got Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, on top of Tony Bobulinski, another former business partner, all now testifying to the exact same thing, that Joe Biden was at the epicenter. He was the chairman, and they called him, of a global bribery influence peddling scheme in which Hunter was the bagman. He would take money from foreign governments, foreign entities, the big three being China, Ukraine, and Romania, tens and tens of millions of dollars in exchange for policy favors. Change the policies of the United States to benefit those foreign countries. It is pure corruption, pure sedition, pure treason. You don't get worse than this. This is what the founding fathers feared. This is exactly why impeachment was placed in the Constitution. There is a smoking gun email. It is dated November 2nd, 2015, that has now been unearthed. It is between, again, the right-hand man to Zlochevsky, Nikolai, he goes by Nikolai, Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, and his right-hand man, Vadim Pozharsky. So he sends this email to Hunter Biden and to Devin Archer. So this is among the four of them. And they've already shaken them down for $10 million. 5 to Joe, 5 to Hunter. Now Hunter has been put on the board, $83,000 a month, as well as Devin Archer has been put on the board of Burisma. And now the Ukrainians are getting a little nervous because they're like, okay, we've shelled out all this money, but we want a guarantee contract. We want a contract whereby we spell it out in writing exactly what you're going to do for us. And in particular, what your father, your old man, Joe Biden is going to do. Now remember, Biden is now vice president. He is the point man for Obama on Ukraine. Vadim spells it out. Okay, Pozharsky. My only concern, he says, is for us to be on the same page regarding our final goals. With this in mind, I would like us to formulate a list of deliverables, including but not limited to, now he gives a big list. Basically, he wants high-powered visits from senior U.S. officials regarding Ukraine. He says he wants them to come to Ukraine and both publicly and privately communicate to the president of Ukraine, he was then Petro Poroshenko, to the president's chief of staff, and to Shokin himself, the inspector general, that you must lay off, he calls him Nikolai in the email, Zlochevsky. You must lay off Nikolai and Burisma. He says, quote, they must express their quote-unquote positive opinion and support of Nikolai/Burisma to the highest level of decision makers here in Ukraine, the president of Ukraine, the president's chief of staff, the prosecutor general, etc. He then goes on to say that we want a visit from Joe Biden, that Biden needs to come and meet with the president of Ukraine. Quote, with the ultimate purpose, I'm reading straight now from the email, with the ultimate purpose to close down for any cases/pursuits against Nikolai, i.e. Zlochevsky, in Ukraine. So they spell it out in the email. We're giving you all this cash. What's the ultimate purpose? You're going to kill the investigation into Nikolai Zlochevsky, the owner and founder of Burisma. So all of these corruption allegations, this investigation, you are going to force Ukraine, the president, to nix it. Now, Hunter Biden responds. Now, there's an email chain in which Hunter and Devin Archer say, we can't put all of this on paper. Someone needs to pick up the phone and say, my father will deliver all of this. It's got to be in a wink, wink, nod, nod kind of a way. So then they have Hunter right back to Pozharsky saying, look, we'll have one last conversation. Let's do this by phone. But he said, look, go ahead and sign the deal. This is what he wrote back on November 5, 2015. We will deliver for you. The Bidens always deliver. Quote, looking forward to getting started on this. Now, listen to Joe Biden. after you know all of this and the entire backstory, listen to Joe Biden now. 3 years later, he's no longer vice president. He's gearing up to run in 2020 against Trump. It's 2018. He's in front of an audience. They love him, fellow globalists, at the Council on Foreign Relations. Now, by the way, this email was written 1 month. This pledge to get Shokin fired 1 month before Biden went to Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, met with the president of Ukraine, met with the chief of staff, everything the emails wanted, everything that Burisma wanted. And then he says, you need $1 billion from us. You don't fire Shokin, you're not getting that $1 billion. Listen to Biden brag on tape. Quid pro quo. He delivered for Burisma. Roll cut 1B, Mike.
I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a got fired.
I mean, you can't spell it out any clearer. Now, notice he said, call Obama. Now, he's threatening Poroshenko. Call Obama. You think I'm bluffing on the $1 billion? You think you're not going to get the $1 billion? By the way, notice how he talks. It's like a mafia don. You know, it's a shakedown. They're shaking the Ukrainians down. So, no, we're going to tell you who to fire. We're going to tell you who to protect, who to cover up. You're not cleaning up any corruption. We decide what corruption exists and what corruption doesn't exist. And you want your $1 billion. By the way, that's our money. He's playing God with not his money, our money. You want the $1 billion, you got to fire him. That's what Burisma hired his son. And that's what Burisma gave the money to Joe Biden. And as he put it, son of a bee. He got fired. Quid pro quo. The Republicans now have him dead to rights. 617-266-6868. John in Peabody. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
The great and all-powerful Kuhner. What's happening, Jeff?
Nothing much. What's on your mind, John? What do you make of this? Will the Republicans impeach, and can Biden survive?
There is nothing more gratifying than a former president who doesn't need any money to tell you where you are legitimately wasting money. And I'll tell you something, Jeff. Why would an innocent man need a pardon? You got to question that sometimes. Because I'll tell you what, this lie that this man is doing, lies are like sharks, okay? They're fun to swim with, they're fun to play with, but eventually one's going to bite you. And this one's going to bite him right in the ass. Because I'll tell you what, my prediction when he was inaugurated was correct. People are going to tell Joe, it's time to step down and start showing your illness. And I'll tell you what, Jill's going to have an awful lot of questions to answer to. The media is going to hammer her. They're going to say, why did you allow this man to continue if he's mentally ill? If, his mental health is failing. Okay, I'll tell you what, Jeff, this is a lie that just, when you lie, you got to be good at it. And I'll tell you what, this is all going to hurt everyone. I saw this coming, Jeff. I said this to you on your show when he was inaugurated. If he ever gets impeached.
No, you're right. No, John, I got to tell you, you called it. You called it. You said if he's inaugurated, he's never, ever going to finish his term. Okay, my friends, you can text us 70470, As always, you can email the Kuhner Man, and this one is a doozy. Subject heading, thick as thieves. Jeff, Here's the sick joke in Washington. There isn't an elected Democrat in Washington, D.C. who isn't guilty of similar crimes to varying degrees. What Biden has engaged in is emblematic of that entire party. Pay to play, bribery, and money laundering are mother's milk to this political cartel. And that's why I think he'll ultimately be acquitted, even if he's arm twisted behind the scenes to step down. To convict Joe Biden in the Senate on this would allow a dangerous precedent that could open the dirty little can of worms on all their crimes. It's all done with a wink and a nod, like an unspoken understanding. As we said last week, it's La Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours. I mean, so, in other words, yeah, they may impeach in the House, but there's no way they'll convict in the Senate. And they would rather tell him to go leave, step down, call it a day, than actually go through with an actual conviction in the Senate, because if he's guilty, they're all guilty. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, super quick reset. Devin Archer, top business or former business partner and associate of Hunter Biden, has now flipped. He is now turned on the Biden crime family. He now says he will testify under oath, and what he will testify to, there was a global influence peddling pay-to-play scheme. Joe Biden was at the heart of it, and that, in fact, Biden was repeatedly on phone calls with prominent oligarchs like the owner and founder of Burisma. In fact, they knew each other on a first-name basis. And Joe Biden guaranteed, if Hunter says, I will deliver, I will deliver. Just keep delivering the cash. Listen now to Speaker McCarthy saying, with Archer's upcoming testimony, I have no choice. We will launch impeachment proceedings. Roll cut 3, Mike.
Rising to the level of impeachment inquiry, which provides Congress the strongest power to get the rest of the knowledge and information needed. Because this president has also used something we have not seen since Richard Nixon, used the weaponization of government to benefit his family and deny Congress the ability to have the oversight.
So, impeachment is coming. He then further elaborates. Roll cut 4, Mike.
Well, it's interesting that the Biden family runs, if they say, a company but never had an office, and shell companies to be able to pay through. But if they really ran it for foreign countries, why didn't you get money from France, from Germany, from UK? Why does it have to be from China, Romania, in these countries that have real challenges and had problems going through? I believe we will follow this all the way to the end, and this is going to rise to an impeachment inquiry the way the Constitution tells us to do this, and we have to get the answers to these questions.
617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's all there, my friends. Should Joe Biden be impeached? I say yes. And will the Democrats support him? To the Democrats out there, do you support Crooked Joe? Do you support him if the Democrats impeach? Or do you feel they need to cut him loose and throw him under the bus before the 2024 election? 617-266-6868. David in Ashland. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Boy, you can get my blood pressure up in the morning, I'll tell you. Regarding your question, do I think that they're going to support him? I think they will. I think that what it is, though, with him, it's pure treason, and I think that he should not. There should be no pardons whatsoever. And I don't understand why the party of the ruling person that's going out is the one that's able to give the pardon. Because, I mean, it's the good old boy network. I think that there's a lot of issues going on. He's gonna end up doing something where medically he's going to say, oh, well, he can't do this. But my other question is, can we still go after all the other people that are attached to him, like tentacles, like the family? Can we go after them? And can we go after, the rhinos that took money during, over in Burisma and that are everyone else that's attached, even if we don't get him, to get everyone that's attached to him, that is connected up to him. Can we go after them?
Well, David, in theory, yes. We can get all of them. If this becomes another Watergate, and I would argue that Watergate is a Sunday picnic compared to this. Watergate is nothing compared to this. But if this becomes another Watergate, in other words, the scandal that brings down a president, and you have, hearings, Watergate-style hearings, and you really have, media outlets, reporters, journalists, FBI investigators, congressional investigators, Republican investigators committed to really blowing the lid off this thing, then Hunter Biden is going to jail. Jim Biden, forgive me, Joe Biden's brother, James, but he goes by Jim. Jim Biden's going to jail. I mean, people are going to go to jail. These are the highest crimes you can commit. This is bribery. This is influence peddling. This is naked public corruption. This is treason. This is selling state secrets in exchange for money. I mean, there is this, this you get the rest of your, in previous times you go to the gallows. You go to the firing squad or you get hung. And, now you get the rest of your life in prison. So there's no question that if you really pursue this and have a proper, a special counsel and a real investigation, people should be going to jail. Now, you combine that with Trump, should he win and come back to power, with an honest Department of Justice and an honest FBI, free from politicization and political interference, which is non-corrupt, then yes, a lot of people are going to go to jail. And by the way, David, notice Biden, when I played that cut on the Council on Foreign Relations, he says, call Obama. You don't think I'm going to cut off the $1 billion? Call Obama. Meaning, Obama knew everything. Obama knew. To me, he's the ultimate big guy. I mean, I know Joe is the big guy on these emails and pieces of paper and documents, but the ultimate big guy is Barack Obama. So if you really want to blow the swamp to smithereens and take them all down, this is the case. This is the scandal. Now, are the Republicans so dirty and so complicit and corrupt themselves that they have an interest in covering this up? And by the way, this happens in Eastern European dictatorships where they will throw a leader. Remember Ceausescu in 1989, the communist strongman of Romania. There was a revolution and they overthrew him from power, but they shot him and his wife, and they did it very quickly because they didn't want a complete, thorough investigation. Why? Because the people who shot him were complicit in his crimes. So they're like, look, let's get rid of these two. They're the figureheads. Let's get rid of them so our crimes remain buried. So the question now is, how complicit and corrupt are the Republicans? How much do they want to go to find out exactly what happened? And how far are they willing to take this? Trump, I know, is willing to take this to the end. And that's why the swamp doesn't want him back in power. This is now becoming their nightmare scenario.
Jeff, I think that part of, I think that McCarthy's being pushed into this. I think he's not the aggressive pit bull, and this should have been done a long time ago. And it should be, it's like he's just going along with being pushed. That's it. He's not a good, House leader, period.
Oh, I agree. No, David, the reason why he's even contemplating this and talking about this, honestly, is because of people like you. I'm not trying to stroke your ego. I'm just being honest. Because of people like you, people like this audience, people like me, the emails, the phone calls, the relentless, ceaseless pressure, and basically we're threatening him. I mean, I don't mean in a bad way. It's what we do in a republic or in a democracy. We're not going to vote for you, and you're not going to be House Speaker. Like we're not going to back you for House Speaker. Like you don't deliver on this. That's what we want. You don't want to deliver. We'll find somebody else to be House Speaker. And he so wants to be House Speaker. He so loves being House Speaker. He sold his soul to be House Speaker. So it's like, oh, these darn peasants. Always with the pitchforks at my back and forcing me to do this. And then really, Kuhner is uncovering, magnificently. It's just email, text, documents, witnesses. He's just rolling them out one after another, after another, after another. So it's like an avalanche. It's just, a pouring down now on McCarthy. So basically, I think by September, the way McCarthy is talking now, by September, Biden's being impeached. David, it may really come down to what the polls are like by September, by the fall. I'm just being candid. If the polls continue to decline and erode for Biden, the grand poobahs of the Democratic Party may come together and say, look, we defend him, we're going to lose everything. Trump's going to come back, we're going to lose more support in the House, we're going to lose the Senate, we're going to get wiped out. Push him out and push him out now. They're going to make within the next 3 to 4 weeks, the Democrats are going to make, and the media, they're going to make a calculation. Do we keep Joe or do we dump Joe?
One question. Say, for instance, now that they're going to go through this impeachment, they start this impeachment thing. Can Biden, does he still have power in his office, or is he kind of put on hold? Because, he can come up with, he's been making bad decisions and everything for himself. Can he continue to rule this country, or is he limited in what he's able to do?
He's limited in what he can do domestically. Domestically, it will paralyze him. Because the House of Representatives will do nothing but focus on impeachment. So nothing gets done. No bills can get passed, nothing. The only power he has is on foreign policy. And I think the fear, and I know, the fear that some have is he so wants to keep his grip on power that this lunatic may escalate the war in Ukraine and maybe even trigger a larger war with Russia in order to get around impeachment. So I'm just, that's why you don't put somebody as mentally unstable as him with his finger on the nuclear button. You're playing with fire. You're playing with dynamite. It's like putting a loaded gun in a child's hand. You're asking for trouble. But so his power is limited. But in foreign policy, he can still do a lot of damage. That's why I've been telling Republicans, move and move fast. Don't mess around with this thing. Move and hit him. It's got to be like a blitzkrieg operation, a lightning strike. Impeach him and lay out your case to the American public and put the Democrats on the defensive. And once they lay out all the evidence, David, I don't see how anybody could justify voting for Biden. Once the impeachment managers lay out exactly what the Biden crime family has been up to now for decades, it's over. It's over.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, David. We will be completely and utterly vindicated. Completely. And that's another problem the media has. Remember, they propped him up. The media sold him to us. So how do they ever recover from this? I know they've had massive scandals and they've caught massive lies and in hoaxes. I get it. Pushing propaganda, pushing lies, pushing fake news, fake stories. But this, they vouched for him. They covered up for him. They were his Praetorian Guard. They shielded him. They defended him. They dragged him across the finish line. If all of this starts to come out, what happens to them? So there's a lot at stake here. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bob, is it Bob in Antonellis? Okay, Bob in Antonellis. Thanks for holding, Bob. Is this Bob? Okay, let's see if we can reconnect with Bob. Let's go to Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Bob.
You know, I'm fed up listening to this impeachment about Biden because of money. I want him held responsible for all the deaths in the military, the maiming of the military, the killings and maiming of people in Afghanistan, the fentanyl problem in this country causing I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of deaths. These are the things that really get my goat.
I agree. I mean, to me, the withdrawal in Afghanistan was sickening. The fentanyl coming in across the border. And what is it? Hundreds of thousands of Americans dead because of it. The Mexican drug cartels, the human trafficking, the sex trafficking. I mean, you look at all the crimes that Biden has committed and enabled to be committed. I completely agree with you. That to me is much worse than the money. No, what the money bothers me, to be honest, is that he sold us out. And look at Ukraine. How many hundreds of thousands of people dead? How much of that country ruined in rubble? Women, children, civilians, maimed, killed, or driven out as refugees? And all of this because Joe Biden is compromised? Look, let's be clear. He wanted Ukraine in NATO. The only way a U.S. president would push for Ukraine to be in NATO is if he was compromised by Zelensky. Zelensky wanted us in NATO. He ordered Biden to push us into NATO. And that's what triggered and sparked the war. So the fact that he was compromised, blackmailed, and co-opted by the Ukrainians led directly to the war in Ukraine. And how many dead? The devastation? The threat now of global nuclear war? Something we haven't seen since the end of the Cold War? So, to me, it's not so much the money. It's the consequences of him taking the money and then selling out our country in the process.
What drives me up a wall, that nobody talks about him being impeached for what we just talked about.
Well, I think, honestly, Bob, at this point, I mean, I agree with you. No, don't get me wrong. But at this point, I don't care what you get him on. I mean, as long as it's the truth. I mean, to me, you don't just go after somebody for the sake of going after him. But as long as they get him out and he's exposed, then let's just get him out. And again, my hope, my prayer is that in 200 years from now, when we say the term Biden, when we talk about the presidency of Joe Biden, people will say two things: corruption and treason. That it will no longer be Benedict Arnold. It will be Joe Biden. That word, that phrase, becomes synonymous with betrayal, sedition, and treason. Because that's what we have. We have a traitor. We have a traitor. Bought and paid for. A complete stone-cold traitor. Bob, thank you very much for that call. Okay, let's go back Yeah, Bob Antonellis is his name? Okay. Because I was wondering why there's no town or city there, Mike, but that's okay. Let's go to Bob Antonellis. He's running for office. Bob, thank you so much for holding, and welcome.
Bob, thank you very much for that call. Okay, let's go back. Yeah.
Bob, can you do me a favor? You sound like you're a million miles away. Can you? We lost you, Bob. I think you're in a tunnel or something. So anyway, call us back and we'll get you back on. You sounded like you're in the Himalayas there, Bob. Or the Rocky Mountains. 617-266-6868. Mike in Chelmsford. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. Thanks very much for doing what you do, and I also want to thank your wife. She's wonderful to listen to and so insightful. I could not agree more with Bob from Plymouth a moment ago. I am so pissed, Jeff, and I'm sorry. I have a son that's in the military. My son, I was so angry with him because he just re-enlisted. God forgive me. My son enlisted for 6 years at 17 years old out of high school, just re-enlisted for another 2, and I was so mad. God forgive me. And I'm so patriotic because I felt like this commander-in-chief, this treasonous animal, is at the helm. He's making decisions for my son and for other sons and daughters out there, moms and dads, that are wearing the uniform proudly. This guy, scumbag, he should be impeached today. Every day they leave him in office, he's making decisions that are compromising the safety and the integrity of the United States. I've had enough. This guy is absolutely a treasonous scumbag, enriching himself over everybody else. He's been doing it for 50 years.
Mike, is your fear that your wonderful boy, your son, is going to be sent potentially to Ukraine to fight in Biden's war against Putin?
But now they're saying for next year. So he's in ready deployment preparations, and my son happens to be in a chemical unit, so he's attached to others, and certainly in Ukraine, God knows the chemical weapons. Oh. And again, my son signed up, and I am so proud of him for that. How bad that I felt bad.
No, I know. Mike, listen, please tell your son a big thank you from me. I want to thank him for his service, and I'll promise I will keep him in my thoughts and prayers. It's people like your son that I'm fighting for. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Going to the previous caller, Mike's point about his son, how his son re-enlisted, and he's very worried his son may be sent to Ukraine. Because Biden now is clearly compromised by the Ukrainians. We know that now definitively. I want you to listen now to Peter Schweitzer. He's the author of multiple books exposing the Biden crime family and exposing the rot and corruption in Washington, D.C. So, as Schweitzer is now going to explain, the Republicans now have unearthed an FBI informant, what's called an FD 1023 document, which shows there was a meeting between Zlochevsky, the founder and chief oligarch in Ukraine, he's the owner of Burisma, and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. That, in fact, $10 million went from Zlochevsky to the Bidens, 5 to Joe, 5 to Hunter, and that the promise was, I pay you, and from this point forward, you do my bidding. Listen now to Peter Schweitzer saying, this guy Zlochevsky is the man who bankrolled Zelensky. He is the oligarch who funded Zelensky's campaign, who has enriched Zelensky, who is the most powerful man behind Zelensky in Ukraine. He's got audio recordings. He's got financial documents and statements proving that Joe Biden was on the take from the Ukrainians. Listen to Schweitzer saying Zelensky has Biden over a barrel. Roll cut 12, Mike.
If you look at that 1023 form that the FBI released, if that document is true, that document reveals that one of the people that was at those meetings that heard the conversations about bribing the Bidens worked for President Zelensky. Who really wants to believe, if that meeting took place and that document is accurate, that that individual did not go and report to President Zelensky what he heard? And again, if that document is true, who wants to believe that President Zelensky and his administration have not used that as leverage over Joe Biden when it comes to negotiations on Ukraine policy? We may all have to start learning the Ukrainian word for compromise, because this is a very clear indication of how this has shaped this administration's policy towards Ukraine and also towards China.
Kompromat. You're compromised, as the Russians would say. And that's exactly now what we're seeing with Biden. Now, doesn't it all make sense now? The $125+ billion, how we have been sending more to Ukraine in financial military assistance than all the countries in Europe combined. So something is up. Every week it's $3 billion, then $1.8 billion, then $1.3 billion, then $2.2 billion. The money is just flowing out. Nobody's keeping any account of it. It's obvious. We will expose you as a traitor and a criminal unless you keep arming us to the teeth. And by the way, we're laundering this money because a lot of this money isn't even making it to the front lines. They're lining their pockets with our money. Listen now. This is Congressman Andrew Clyde of Georgia saying we now have all the information we need on Joe and Hunter Biden's dealings with Burisma. They bought him. Burisma, and by extension, the Ukrainians, have now bought the President of the United States. Roll cut 15. Mike.
Well, I think it's pretty evident that Burisma has bought the Bidens, and they bought them, both of them, for $10 million. So the 10% for the big guy, I think, just went to 50% an equal partner. This 1023 form that has come out is incredibly just incredible evidence of what you see, corruption at the very top level. Our president is compromised. The Department of Justice is covering up for him and has been covering up for him. This document is 3 years old. Cheryl, what has the FBI and the DOJ been doing for 3 years? Why don't we have copies of those audio recordings? Or those text messages. I mean, we can do that sort of thing. So this is, in my opinion, the FBI and the DOJ is complicit with this cover-up on this issue.
There's no question. There's absolutely no question. That's why when Trump says we've got to drain the swamp, he's right. It's time to drain the whole darn swamp. The whole swamp, all of it. Now, my question to you is this. The final political nail in Biden's coffin is going to be Devon Archer's testimony. He's now already in private depositions, has already said he will testify on Hunter Biden, on these business dealings regarding Ukraine, regarding Burisma, Romania, China. Joe Biden was on the phone, involved in all of these details. Forget knowing about Hunter Biden's business dealings. He was integrally involved, seminally involved in Hunter Biden's business dealings. So Biden has been lying to us from day one. From day one. And we're going to have it now under oath from Devon Archer, Hunter Biden's closest business associate. So you've got the witnesses, you've got bank records, you've got emails, you've got text messages, you've got FBI informants, you've got IRS, FBI whistleblowers. He's going down. He's going down. My question to you, should Joe Biden be impeached and removed from office? And the Democrats, what will they do? Will they rally to corrupt Joe, or will they throw him under the bus? 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us 70470, 70470. Lines are on fire. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Jeff, you keep asking, is Biden going to leave? Are they going to impeach? If this administration was built off of identity politics, right? You've got Kamala Harris, a vice president, woman of color. You got, Buttigieg, the gay transportation secretary. You got the rear admiral, as your surgeon general. Here's their problem, Jeff. They have built this administration, and they're between a rock and a hard place. If Biden goes, you get Harris, the worst candidate you could ever possibly have, an utter failure when it comes to being vice president. Can't debate her way out of a wet paper bag. Do they really think for a second that if she becomes president because he leaves, do you really think that they're not going to have to back her? I mean, if she is your sitting president and they say, we're not going to endorse you for re-election, that's a woman of color, Jeff, that the Democrat Party is turning their back on. They're going to have to make her their person. There's no way out of it. So they're going to do their best to make sure Biden doesn't leave office. There's no way.
I agree. No, Mark, look, that they're in a bind. They've really shafted themselves. They put her on as an insurance policy to make sure that you can never push Biden overboard. The problem now is he's looking worse and worse and worse and worse by the day. And that's why I think ultimately, Mark, the Democrats really only have one true play left. They have one more card to play, and that's to put Trump in jail. They have to put him in jail, because if they don't, they're going down. And it's not that they're going down to a Republican. They're going down to a guy who is going to drain that swamp. He is going to dismantle the deep state. He is going to start putting people in jail. And he's a man who's on a mission. He's on a mission. And he's not taking no for an answer. And who's been there before, who's admitted now he's made mistakes, saying my cabinet choices, I didn't make some good. Christopher Wray says was a mistake. He's openly admitted it. He goes, I took the advice of people I thought I could trust. I make a mistake once, as Trump put it. I never make a mistake a second time. I don't make the same mistake twice. So they're going to have to deal now with 4 years of retribution from Trump. And they don't know what to do. So that's why I think he's going to end up going to jail. I still think he's going to win, by the way, even with him in jail. But between you and me, that's their only card. Other than that, what else can they do, Mark?
Nothing. We've talked about it in the past, Jeff. As soon as they get him, if they get an indictment for January 6th, that's their golden goose, Jeff. That will show that, he plotted an insurrection against the government. That's their, in their mind, their winning ticket is to get him indicted for January 6th.
Mike, I want you to do me a favor. This call from Mark in New Hampshire. It's 8:40, July 25th, 8:40 a.m., July 25th. I want us to archive it. Keep it in the files, archive it, because I think he's going to be proved a prophet. I think he's going to be proved 1,000% correct. But in particular, can we put a special mark beside it? Because Sandy says all our shows are archived. No, I know, but can we put a special star or whatever? Because I want to play this down the road when this happens. That Mark in New Hampshire called it before anyone else. Mark, I think it's like a crystal ball. I think you're dead on. You're dead on. It's their ace, what they think is their ace in the hole. And it's pretty obvious. They dump Biden, they get Kamala. They can't win. they keep Biden and all of this gets exposed, they can't win. They've got one choice. Lock him up. Mark, you're dead on. Dead on. And when it starts to happen, I want to play this cut, or whatever. I want to play this phone call and play it as a cut and say, look, our audience was ahead of the curve. Mark, as always, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Best audience in the business. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text us 70470. Is it time to finally impeach Joe Biden and the Democrats? What will they do? Will they circle the wagons, or will they finally throw him under the bus? What would you do? If you're a Democrat, what would you do? 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Eddie in Ipswich. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. My one statement is, with all the documentation that's come out in this investigation on the Bidens, which shows pretty well that the Bidens are corrupt when you look at their dealings with Ukraine. My question comes up is, why hasn't Congress controlled the spending on this, these billion-dollar expenditures that Joe Biden's just signing off for Ukraine? My concern is that they're just as corrupt as he is, yet they have the power of the purse to shut it all down. It makes me think that all of Washington is a swamp, not just the Bidens.
Eddie, let me answer your question with a question. If you weren't just Eddie in Ipswich, but you were Congressman Eddie from whatever district you're from in Maine, and you're in Washington, you're in Congress, and you see now how the president, how Biden is completely compromised, owned lock, stock, and barrel by the Ukrainians. They're leveraging him, they're blackmailing him, they're extorting him, and you see how he's just sending tens and tens of billions of dollars, much of it stolen, and being laundered in Ukraine. What would you do?
Well, regardless of whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or who knows, or a Bernie Sanders, you'd have to look at Biden and say, this man is corrupt to the core, and he has a constitutional obligation to protect our nation. If he's that compromised, he's not going to make sound decisions. I mean, decisions that would protect us in, our hour of need when, we're attacked by someone. He's blind to all those things. And that makes him a very dangerous individual. So regardless of what side of the fence you're on, you'd have to impeach him and get his ass out of there. He's way too dangerous now. I don't care how stupid Kamala is. Unfortunately, she would have to get in there because the Bidens, to the core, are corrupt. They've been polluted.
Wouldn't you turn off the spigot? Wouldn't you turn off the money supply to Ukraine?
Absolutely. They're bankrupting my grandchildren. They're going to be paying this debt forever.
So, but you're not corrupt. That's why you would do that. So that's why, look, I know many members of Republicans now. Okay? I know Democrats. The Pelosi's are in on Ukraine. John Kerry's son, this story just broke. He's a business partner of Hunter Biden. Kerry's son is doing business in Ukraine. So the Kerrys are dirty. The Pelosi's are dirty. Obviously, the Bidens are dirty. The Clintons are dirty. The Obamas are dirty. So you're talking now about very powerful Democrat politicians and their families all have their fingers in the Ukraine pie. Now, let's talk Republicans. Lindsey Graham is dirty on Ukraine. Mitt Romney is dirty on Ukraine. Mitch McConnell is dirty on Ukraine. So, again, you're talking now very, very powerful Republicans have, vested interests in Ukraine. So my suspicion is exactly what you said. They are so complicit in all of this, or if it's not Ukraine, it's similar, but just with a different country. In other words, we're doing business with oligarchs, foreign powers, foreign entities, and we're selling our country down the river. Like, just stand back objectively. for the last 20, 30 years, doesn't it just feel we're doing everything for the world, special interests for the world, but nothing for us? We can't even get our roads paved. We can't even get our borders secure. We're begging for them not to outsource our jobs and our factories and our manufacturing. I'm just talking, just the basics. So that's why everybody feels like something is wrong. No one represents us. Well, the reason why they're not representing us is because they're doing the bidding of foreigners who are lining their pockets. So you're completely right. Now, it's even worse than that. Honestly, Eddie, it's not he's just turning a blind eye. I wish it was just he's turning a blind eye. To me, what is starting to come out, and I think it will fully come out, is the Ukrainians pick up the phone and say, we want another 10 billion, Hunter. Hunter, you tell your father another 10 billion by tomorrow. Zelensky not happy. Not happy at all. So they're leveraging him, blackmailing him, and saying, you better underwrite our security. You better keep sending us all of this financial aid, all of these tanks, all of these personnel carriers, all of these fighter jets, all of these missiles. And the deep state is happy because they're making a ton of cash off of this, obviously, weapons and weapons transfers. But they're dragging us. We're barreling towards World War III. So if a foreign country is involved with a nuclear power in a major war that could trigger World War III, and our president is completely compromised by the Ukrainians, and whenever they say jump, he says how high, that means he will also drag us into World War III. To me, that's beyond treason. It's not just selling your country out. He's now a party and a player to potential nuclear Armageddon. How can people in Washington not see this? We're not talking, and I'm not trying to minimize what we lost in Iraq, but we're not talking Iraq or Afghanistan or Libya, bad as all that was. Why? Because they don't have the biggest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world. With, by the way, hypersonic missiles to deliver them. Russia, for all of its flaws, is a great nuclear military power. That's what I've been saying. This war in Ukraine is different from other wars. Why? Because it could end the world. That's why. Hello? And we just keep escalating and escalating and escalating and escalating. And what if we're escalating because they're dangling our president like a string on a puppet? That, to me, is why I don't understand why they haven't pushed for impeachment earlier. Kamala, as bad as she is, as stupid and incompetent as she is, I don't believe the Ukrainians own her. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So at least you don't have a compromised traitor in the White House. She's a disaster, don't get me wrong. But Eddie, to put it to you as bluntly as I can, to be honest with you, like I'm in the confessional. And I'm going to get a lot of trouble for saying this, but I got to say it because it's the truth. The man's a whore. Joe Biden is a whore. Hunter Biden is a whore. His families are whores. They sell you out for $10. They sold our country out for millions of dollars. Not even billions, millions. You don't get more vile, more corrupt, frankly, more of a scumbag than that. And that's who they picked to run our country? His presidency must go down in infamy. And for hundreds of years, his name must be synonymous with corruption, evil, and treason.
Look at it at a distance, Jeff. The saddest part, and you mentioned this, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months ago, you said, is because of their greed and how blind they are with guilt, they're going to turn Ukraine into nothing but a giant killing zone. Those poor people are being turned into nothing but junk. It's gross what they've done to those people.
Oh, you're so dead
and
on.
Shame on Congress for feeding into it.
Oh, that's because you're right, because they're corrupt and complicit as well. Honestly, Eddie, if you have the stomach for it, you got to see the images now coming out of Ukraine with this. By the way, the counteroffensive has completely failed. It's completely failed. And Blinken said it's been a smashing success. You now have American generals, American military, everybody. They're coming out saying it's a disaster. The Ukrainians are getting massacred. The Russians have very deeply fortified positions. The Ukrainians, it's basically a death march. And they're just sending them in. The tanks are getting wiped out. The armored personnel carriers are getting incinerated. You've got dead Ukrainians everywhere. And some of the cities and towns, I'm telling you, reminds me of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The rubble, the smoldering ruin, as far as the eye can see. It's heartbreaking. It really is. All because these people are completely corrupt. And, Eddie, I know you would never do this. I'm just saying this as an example. But it would be akin to you selling your daughter or your son for $100. That's the Bidens. I say, my God, you sold out what? You sold yourself? You sold your children for a couple of bucks? Like, what kind of a man are you? That's Joe Biden. That's Joe Biden. I'm telling you, that's Joe. That's the scumbag we have in the White House. And dead Ukrainians and dead Russians for as far as the eye can see. That's why when Trump was asked, well, Russia may win the war, he's like, I just want peace, man. Have you seen the devastation? Have you seen the dead bodies? Have you seen the children, the women, the civilians, the old people? Have you looked at some of these cities and towns? Have you looked at them? There's nothing left. Eddie, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Ann in Boston. Thanks for holding, Ann, and welcome.
Hi, thanks for taking my call, and good
morning.
My
pleasure, Ann.
I agree with everything you say. I do watch Newsmax, so I am seeing what's going on. And because of Newsmax, I've watched a lot of these hearings going on. And the problems with the propaganda and getting that out for, I have friends that don't even know this is going on. What do you mean by, no, it's not Trumpism. It's not against Trump. It's not what it is at the end of the day. You're either a patriot or you're not. And to allow, only because of ignorance, to allow society to think, no, Biden's good, anybody but Trump, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't work. And another thing is putting in the White House in this Biden regime was all planned. They wanted Carmella in there because everybody knew nobody wanted Carmella as president. So we're going to put the puppet in there and nobody's going to get the puppet out. I'm a small business owner. I'm a senior citizen. And I can't believe the last 4 years that we are still standing as far as my business going and the kindness in this world. This White House has just spread hate and hatred. Just like Clinton. I didn't have sex with this woman. Well, the inappropriate thing that he did made that generation and made society say this isn't sex. And this Biden regime is doing the same thing. Cheating. Let's hold it from the public. Let's not let them know the difference. You want to pick a religion, you check out Christianity, Judaism, you check them all out, and then you make a decision. Same with this. Let me hear this side. Let me hear that side. No, we can't let them know the truth. I am so mad at those families with the military children and the Gold Star families. How much more do they want? Yeah, Ukraine's suffering, but guess what? We are too. And at the end of the day, you're either a patriot or you're not. And the only way, as a middle-class, small business, family-owned, senior citizen, how I can fight back is by voting. And I believe they got to clean that up and make it clean, just like it blew their minds when Trump came in. Oh, it blew their minds. Well, guess what? We got to do that. That's at least what I can do is get out there and vote. And even if it's not Trump, if you show me somebody else who can do it, I'll be more than happy to check them out. Checking them all out. Look what the deep state is doing to their own candidate, their own Democratic candidate they're putting down. It's out of control, and people need to know the truth. Then if they want to be ignorant and not a patriot, go ahead. That's your choice, thank God, in this country. Thank you.
No, and you're dead on. You're completely correct. They're selling our country out. They're selling you out. They're selling me out. And they're doing it for Ukraine, China, for the globalists, for everything that's not in the vital interests of the United States. There's no question. And the tipping point arrived last night. It was 1-2. It wasn't just that Devin Archer now was deposed, Hunter Biden's former business associate, and said, no, Joe Biden was in at least 24 phone calls. No, he knew everything. No, he directed and masterminded everything. And I will testify to this under oath. It's that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now sees the mountain of evidence against Biden. And now RFK Jr., who's primarying Biden, has come out and said Biden needs to be investigated. The Biden crime family needs to be investigated. And now they need to go for corruption. So now you have Kennedy crossing the Rubicon. So it's starting now. They're collapsing on all fronts. And you mentioned the Monica Lewinsky blue dress. Remember Clinton famously said, I never had sex or whatever, sexual relations with that woman. Well, the blue dress, the DNA on the blue dress, the stain on the blue dress, it was too big for the media to ignore. The truth was the truth was the truth. This is now Joe Biden's Monica Lewinsky moment. Because what has he been telling us now for years? For years. That he and Hunter Biden never discussed business. He doesn't know what Hunter Biden's doing. He never got involved in Hunter Biden's business. He never even spoke about it with him. He said it during the debates. He said it during the campaign. He said it after he was inaugurated. He kept saying it over and over again. In fact, here's the montage. Here's the montage. Roll cut 1A. Mike.
How many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position, knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Now, that's just a small taste. I could play hundreds of these cuts. He's going to have to eat every single word of those. Because now we know definitively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, all he did was talk about business with his son. He was involved in it. So he's been lying to us, to our faces, for how many years now? Now, notice the change. By the way, when this comes out, after Archer officially testifies, it's over. I mean, all of that, you can't hide that anymore. It's too big to hide. It's the dress. Here it is. No, and they have them on tape. I have the recordings. I have them on tape. This is Joe Biden talking with Burisma executives. Like, I don't know what this guy's telling you for all these years. So, how does he recover from that? He can't. He can't. But notice this. I want to play this cut. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked, well, Devin Archer now is going to testify, and obviously Joe Biden knew and he was involved. Listen to the change now. Now they're starting to backpedal. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre. Roll cut 10. Mike.
Chairman James Comer today says that the Oversight Committee, has evidence that the president in the past communicated directly with foreign business associates of his son Hunter Biden many times. Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about his business.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son. I just don't have anything else to add.
Did you catch that? They're no longer saying he never spoke to his son about business. Now it's he was never in business with his son. Listen now to Miranda Devine. She's from the New York Post. She broke the Hunter Biden laptop story. This is her on Fox saying they're already changing their tune. Roll cut 10A, Mike.
Whenever anybody asked him about it on the odd occasions that journalists got to him, he would be very angry and very indignant about the idea that anyone would question his integrity. And now we see that because Devon Archer is about to testify on Monday about what he witnessed and what Joe Biden knows that he witnessed about those meetings between Hunter and Joe Biden and Hunter's overseas business partners, they have changed their tune quite significantly. And so now the line is that Joe Biden is not in business with his son, and you can bet that coming in the future they'll be parsing the meaning of in business.
Exactly. She's dead on. They're going to be parsing. Well, when you say in business, what do you mean by in business? And the house of cards is starting to come crashing down. And when Devon Archer testifies, Joe Biden is going to be exposed as the biggest freaking liar in the history of the United States. And
thank you for the uplifting words, because I needed that.
And sorry, I heard honking in the background. I was thinking, is that you honking? Like, yeah.
See, listening to you. but thank you ever so much. And, let's pray for America. And
let's get this done. I'm with you. And I'm with you. Let's get this done. Okay, my friends, now watch. He spoke to Hunter about business. He just wasn't involved in the business. Okay, very quickly, because the lines are jammed, bouncing off of Miranda Devine's point, where Joe Biden, for years, hundreds, if not thousands of times, I knew nothing about Hunter Biden's business deals. I saw nothing, heard nothing, knew nothing, said nothing. Now that Devon Archer will testify, well, Joey wasn't involved in Hunter's business dealings. So now they're changing their tune. Well, listen now to Peter Schweitzer saying the more that comes out, the more the White House now has to backtrack and backtrack and backtrack. Roll cut 11, Mike.
They initially said there were no foreign deals. Then they shifted and said there might have been foreign deals, but the Bidens made no money. Then it became Joe Biden didn't know about any of the deals. Then it became Joe Biden didn't participate in any of the deals. And now it's that he was not in business with his son. Look, the implications for this are huge.
Of course, the implications are massive. It'll bring down his entire presidency. But I mean, he's completely right. They just keep changing and changing and changing and changing. And let me just make one last point. Notice how none of this was driven by the media. The corrupt, corporate, fake news media, with all of this overwhelming information and evidence, and not one honest reporter, not one. CBS, NBC, ABC, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press, CNN, MSLSD. So you can just go. I mean, just one after another, after another, after another. Not one Bob Woodward, not one Carl Bernstein, not even one. Not even one. It's incredible. That's why if Biden goes down, the corrupt fake news media's reputation, whatever they have left, I know it's in tatters, but whatever little they have left, it's over for them as well. They covered up for a crook, a criminal, a scumbag, and a traitor. Think about that for a second. 617-266-6868. Russ in Rochester. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and thank you for taking my call. And as usual, you're doing a great job. I mean, you're definitely helping us out here. What I wanted to say, I got a theory, and I hate to say this. It sounds very, but I'm pretty much positive. I get a little bit irritated with people because there's a gentleman that tells you exactly what's going to happen, and he gives you the warning ahead of time, but no one seems to take his warning serious, and that's Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump said that Biden is going to go down by the 25th Amendment, and that's what's going to. I mean, I believe that's definitely what's going to happen. But here's the kicker: what's going to happen? Because I know that gentleman from New Hampshire. Was it Dan? I think it was. Yes, he had his theory, and I agree with him. But what's going to happen, I think, is that the Newsom from California is going to appoint Michelle Obama as the interim senator. And the Obamas have a house. They bought it in 2016 in California. And then I think what's going to happen is she's going to, being in the Senate for a short period of time, then she's going to announce that she's running for president. And that's how this is all going to go down. And in the end, Biden, Trump is still going to win by a landslide. That's my theory. What do you think,
Russ,
Jeff?
No, interesting. So you're saying the way they get around Kamala, I think you're talking about Mark in New Hampshire, because Mark in New Hampshire made the point, and I agree with him, just to play out the scenario. Biden now is forced to step down for whatever reason, the corruption, his health, whatever it is. They push him out. Kamala now is the VP. She now becomes a successor. She's now the president. Well, how is the modern day woke Democratic Party obsessed with identity politics? They're then not going to allow, and she's a sitting president now, they're not going to allow a woman of color to not remain the nominee in 2024. Sharpton will go berserk. Black Lives Matter will go berserk. Jackson will go berserk. The Congressional Black Caucus will go berserk. So, and that's why Mark says they're in a bind. They're stuck because she is so unpopular. She's even more unpopular than Biden. You're saying the way they get around that is Newsom appoints Michelle Obama. She now becomes a senator, interim senator. Then they run her as a candidate against Kamala Harris. So, yes, we're going to dethrone a black woman, but we're going to dethrone a black woman with another black woman. And that's how they think, that's their silver bullet. That's how they think they can rescue the whole thing, correct?
Also, too, why? Because, what's her name, Harris, she listens to whatever Obama says. So what if he says, look, just stay on the ticket as a VP, and we'll have two black women as candidates. My wife as running for president, and you as vice president.
That's very interesting. I mean, I don't know if she would take it at this point. Mm-hmm. Look, you may be right, Russ. I'm just saying from Kamala's point of view, I mean, the woman has no shame. I mean, this woman, let's be honest, she slept her way to the top. She has no self-respect. So, but still, I mean, you're the VP. You're supposed to be the next in line. Biden steps down, the guy steps down, and you're still going to be the VP? I mean, it's kind of a slap in the face. But no, look, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Obama's the ultimate puppet master. So what kind of kompromat, as the Russians put it, what does he have on her? So maybe she's compromised in a different way. So he may tell her, you got to walk the plank. No, my wife will be the president and you will be the VP. And it's going to be 2 women, 2 black women. You want to break ceilings? This will be the ultimate ceiling that we break. Russ, very interesting. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Jimmy.
He should be impeached, but he should go to prison because he's a traitor. I've been going to restaurants, and I know a lot of Chinese people, but a lot of these people that I've been seeing that are young, and I asked them, would you get that new guy? Oh, he came across the border. I gave him a job. But all these people, they're not coming, the Chinese, not with women or kids. They're coming able-bodied guys. They look like they're in physical shape. You follow me, Jeff?
They're young, military-age men. There's no question. No, you're completely right, Jimmy.
I think he did it deliberately to get ready for whatever the face China has if they go after Taiwan. And these people are here for a reason.
Well, and now with Biden so weakening and depleting our military, and then even telling the world that we've run out of ammunition and artillery shells, and that's why they have to give cluster bombs to Ukraine, he's letting it known to the Tricoms, you want to take Taiwan, we won't be able to lift a finger to stop you because we're out of ammo. So you're right. He's undermining Taiwan. He's allowing potential Chinese agents to pour in across our southern border who are going to be sleeper cells if there is a war over Taiwan. I mean, he's done everything to weaken this country and strengthen communist China. If you look at his 3 years in power, everything he has done, everything has been to benefit China. And the country that paid him the most money, or his crime family the most money, China. So yes, he's helping Ukraine. He's helping Romania. He's helping other countries that have lined his pockets. But the numero uno, the country number 1, is China. Because the Ukrainians may have given him tens of millions of dollars. The Chinese gave the Bidens $1 billion. And for Joe, money talks. Jimmy, thank you very, very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. And look, I think there's no question. I think in many ways he was the perfect fall guy. Because what he did, think about it. What has been the Joe Biden presidency? It has been a controlled demolition. That's what it is. It's a controlled demolition, the deliberate destruction of the United States. But he's so incompetent that it comes across as incompetence. So you look at it and you go, wow, no one can wreck the border like this guy. Nobody can wreck the economy, the middle class, inflation, just run our military, just run our cities, crime, just run down the list. Nobody can screw up Afghanistan like that. Nobody can screw up Ukraine like that. But then you realize, you think, well, the guy's just so incompetent. No, he's the perfect puppet. Because he's so incompetent, a controlled demolition looks like it's a form of incompetency. But really, he's just doing what his paymasters are ordering him to do. That's all he's doing. And now he's so stupid, he's being outed and he's being exposed. But to me, the Biden years are the years of decline, destruction, and disaster. No question. No question. Trump is right. Take the 5 worst presidents in the history of the United States, combine them, and you're looking at Joe Biden. That's how much damage he's done. 617, and I believe deliberate. Deliberate. I think there's no question. It's too perfect. As I told Mike and Sandy many times, I've dealt with really incompetent people in my life. Seriously. Okay, the former president of the Washington Times, I'll name him, Tom McDevitt. Okay, we used to call him McMoron. That was his nickname, McMoron. What a loser! Oh, what a loser! Oh, Ay, ay, ay. How this guy ever became president of the Times is beyond me. This guy couldn't order a salad, I swear to you, without messing it up. Okay, he was the butt of jokes at the Times. The whole newsroom mocked and made fun of him. But even he was right. A stop clock is right twice a day. Even he, once in a blue moon, you'd slap yourself in the face and go, I can't believe it. I actually agree with McMoron. We would say, wow, he actually stumbled into the right, no, really, he stumbled into the right decision. I can't believe it. So I've dealt with incompetent people. I mean, colossally incompetent at high levels of power. They don't get everything wrong all the time. There's almost a perfection, an evil perfection in Joe Biden. And that, to me, that's a controlled demolition. It's just blow this up, blow the border up, blow the economy up, just blow. And under the guise that he's incompetent. But really, he's doing the bidding of the globalists. 617-266-6868. Sal in Boston. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing today?
Very good, Sal.
So, Jeff, the biggest thing that bothers me is that the lack of respect for this country and the lack of love for this country. And the biggest threat, I think, besides Joe Biden, is the checks and balances that are supposed to be there so that doesn't happen. Because it doesn't matter if he's there or somebody else. The government is supposed to make sure that this doesn't happen. And it doesn't do that anymore. And it hasn't done it in a long time. And to me, that's the biggest threat.
Well, let me ask you this, Sal. What do you make of the fact that the Republicans now it's admittedly under a lot of pressure from you, from me, from this audience, from people like us around the country, and Trump as well. Trump's been putting a lot of pressure on McCarthy to impeach, but nevertheless, they're on the verge now of impeaching. Is that a check and balance? In other words, we've got the Supreme Court shooting Biden down on affirmative action, on other issues, student loans, and now you've got the House about to impeach Biden over the next couple of months. Are we starting to see some checks and balances now rein Biden in?
I think I'll believe it when I see it. So they might be talking about it, but you know what? After all that's come out, after all that's gone on, I'll believe it when I see it. Because,
interesting. So you don't think even with Devin Archer testifying, let's say he does under oath, as he says he will, you don't even think that may push the Republicans to finally impeach?
Maybe they're afraid, because they're afraid of other things that have gone on and other people that'll be implicated. I don't know. Isn't that what always happens, that somebody has to take the fall, but then they end it so that it doesn't take down everybody? I don't know. I hope things get straightened out, but it seems like the core principle of what's supposed to happen hasn't been happening. And my parents came here from another country. They loved this country. They respected this country, and there is no respect for it anymore. Whether you're born here or you come from somewhere else, I think the lack of respect for this country and what happens, it's become a big soap opera, And I talk to other friends. I bring up things, and I don't pick on Joe Biden because there's a lot of people in Washington that are doing things they're not supposed to, and they keep talking about Trump. They can't get over one thing. They can't admit other things that are wrong in Washington. They have to push the blame on somebody else. I don't know. I hope it gets straightened out. My parents came here for a reason, and they gave up their citizenship in their home country to come here, and they respected this country. And a lot of people have gone to war in this country, right, and have died to keep those freedoms. But I don't think that respect is there anymore. And without it, I don't know.
Well, we're finished. Oh, there's no question. Sal, sadly, I really wish I could disagree with you. I really do, but I can't. I think you're right. I think many people have lost all respect for this country. They don't appreciate it. They don't understand it. They don't realize how lucky they are to be living in this country with our Constitution and our Bill of Rights and this incredible republic, and what a blessing it has been to so many people, not just here, but around the world, and going back, centuries, what we have done, it breaks my heart. It really does. So anyway, fingers crossed. I hope the Republicans finally do what's right. Sal, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. As I've been saying for I don't know how many months now, impeach him. What are you waiting for? Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott, and welcome.
Jeff, I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. Scott, what do you make of all this? You think the Republicans are now finally going to impeach him?
You know what, Jeff? I personally believe you're right. I think they listen, they can't, there's no way they can hide this, like you said. They can try to, use our dictionary to double talk their way out of it again. But there's no way out of this one. But I got something even better, Jeff. I live near Revere Beach Parkway. But our lovely Massachusetts, representation, they brought 300 illegal immigrants and put them in a new hotel erection on Revere Beach Parkway. Anyone around here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I believe this is exactly why the border is so dangerous.
It's illegals to my left and illegals to my right, and everywhere I look, it's an illegal. And by the way, I'm just reporting now what the national media is saying and what the local media is saying. Tens of thousands of illegals in Massachusetts are now getting their driver's licenses. Bye-bye.